Josh, here we are. Finally.
Right.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a little while.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Okay, so drone sky shows, which I got to learn about it before we met. So you're the managing director and founder, and you're one of the pioneers in the drone sky shows in Australia. So just take me back from the beginning and walk me through how you started this.
Well, it started off with something that I think the actual origin story of it is something that I think you're going to vibe with. So I've been an Army reservist for 13 years. And just after the pandemic, I had another company that I sold, and I had a couple of years of figuring out what was next. And I knew what I wanted to do next. I wanted to be scalable. I wanted to be in tech. I had a few metrics of what I wanted to be. So I was kind of actively on the lookout. And I was doing Army Reserve work, and I was on a course, a 2-week course. I was actually just in the field, and I was on Picket, which
Right.
Yeah, you know Picket. So I was on Picket. It was 11:30 at night, and I knew the Op 4 team who were going to be rolling us at some stage. And I'll never admit this on the time, but I messaged this guy. I was like, "When are you rolling us?" He was like, "Oh, sometime after 12." I was on from 11 to 12. I was like, "Perfect." So I was sitting there on my phone, as every bad digger is, and I was looking at just reels of just what was on there out in the world, cold and lonely in the hole. So, and I saw this video, and it was of a drone light show over the snow. So a couple of guys, I think later I found out they were in Denmark or Sweden, and they had just a drone swarm over snow, and it looked amazing. I was like,
That's not the Winter Olympics 2018.
No.
Okay.
There was just a couple.
Right.
I think they only had like 100 drones, which at the time, 2021,
still
it was
huge.
like, oh, that was pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's cool. Why isn't that in Australia? Or I haven't seen that in Australia. So what's going on? So for the rest of that course, which had 4 days left, I was obsessed. So any downtime, I was on the computer having a look, doing like basic due diligence, and kind of form the idea of like, okay, this is cool. And so once I'd latched onto that, it was like, okay, let's follow it through until I find an immediate kill. So something that comes up, if there's a law in Australia saying, no, you can't do that because of this.
Just
or
like any good Army reservist would do, right?
I'd probably counter that by saying they're probably doing their job. But I was getting to the tail end of 13 years, and I was probably a little bit like checking out. And so I was doing my DD on that. And then over the course of, say, what was that? It was probably February. So over the next 4 months, I was doing the DD, and it wasn't an immediate kill. It was like, okay, this is stacking up. This is something cool. It exists in somewhere else in the world. It just hasn't made its way to Australia. And so far, the laws were not a major inhibitor. The money was,
That's very
fair.
optimistic comments from you, because, Jesus would have to be here one of the toughest countries when it comes to all the regulations and all the CASA, or,
it was a pain in the ass.
This is not, a small exercise.
No, but it was achievable. So we knew the licenses that you need to have. So there's a bunch of people who have X license, and they needed to go for a swarming license. So they needed to go up the next step, and you can apply for it, and it's fine. It just takes a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. And of course, like the regulations are always catching up to the industry. So swarming drones weren't a thing, 20 years ago, and I was like, okay, so regulations kind of go, and they catch up. So in 2021, we were able to technically do it. So I went out on a raise, found some people for a raise, and then the next thing I was on the lookout for was, all right, who's the person who's going to do it? So I went out through my network, and I was like, yep, there's a guy who I know who can do it. Went and chatted to him. He was like, yep, I can do it. So then it kind of there was about 3 of us who were the main ones in there, and then 6 other investors, and went out, managed to sell the dream, get the first contract, and then it was like, all right, all systems go. We did it. We did the first. We got the drones. We tested them. We got the show made up with the client. And don't get me wrong, like it was clunky as hell. Like the first client, being them, were probably like information coming out left, right, center, being like, wait, I thought you said this. And I was like, well, yeah, actually, we thought it was this. But, the manufacturer, like we're learning as you go. That old thing of like building the plane on the way, jumping off a cliff.
Huge.
You are. And so this is probably, I can remember like individually, every moment has like an in-depth story to it. But overall, once the first show was done, it was like, that's it. We've got it. We've got the business. We're there. There was other companies because that was now over like 8 to 9 months from inception to first show. And in that time, we're like, oh, there's other people starting to jump on it as well. So it was actually a company who launched, I think, I was so upset, about a month before us with 150 drones.
Right.
I was like, oh, man, that sucks. And then after that, we launched with 300, and then the immediate strategy was like, right, we need to be the biggest, baddest here. So we went up to 1,000 drones in the first year, doing shows all over Australia, just being like, we're going aggressively after market share.
Wow. What was your first show?
City of Perth.
City of Perth.
Yeah.
That would have been the first show of its kind in Perth City.
In Perth City, yeah, because the other guys did it in Fremantle, and they did a really good show in Fremantle. Yeah. But for us in Perth City, where it kind of became an iconic location in front of Elizabeth Quay, that was, and it was packed.
Stunning.
Like, it was packed. And I had a moment there where...
was that Australia Day or...?
No, it was in February.
Okay.
It was the relaunch of, it was launch of the city's new logo and kind of campaign, and it coincided with John Glenn's flyover in 1969, if I'm remembering.
Right.
Over Perth, and so it was space themed, and it was cool.
Man, it's huge, Josh. I could just imagine the challenges along the way, every step of the way, right? and I'm really interested in how you went through that transition from, an idea all the way to execution with, now being the biggest company and the largest company in Australia for Sky shows. Is that right?
That would, I think, to right now, and we'll probably touch on this later because I have now left, is yes, it's still true. So by per number of drones, we're still the largest in Australia.
Amazing. How expensive it is to launch a Sky show. So let's just say this is open to any private company that wants to. The logistics and the amount of permits and licenses and everything else and all the technical expertise that goes behind it and deployment of something like that would be huge.
Yeah. So
how much would I need to launch a Sky show with drones?
So basically, there's a bottom threshold because of all those licenses and logistics and otherwise that you probably, for us, $25,000 will get you a 50 to maybe 100 drone show. Now there's caveats around that all over the place, because if you want to hold that drone show in the middle of Perth City, where we have to shut down roads and apply, we have to abide by certain by CASA regulations and laws, and that requires a exclusion zone around the drone. So if this is, say, the drone swarm in the air, and the drones are 100 meters across, I have to have 100 meters out to the left of the drones and 100 meters out to the right of the drones. And if the drones are taking up 100 meters themselves, that's a circle with a diameter.
300 meters.
300 meters.
For drop zone safety,
no cars,
for malfunctions,
no people,
anything falling out of the sky.
That is the you have to, as the operator, prove to CASA as part of getting your license that you can control that. So say that show is going to happen on the 1st of December, you need to apply to CASA 3 months prior with all that work prior done of here's how I'm going to shut down the roads, here's how I'm going to manage pedestrians, here's all the stuff. Now, a lot of that is template that goes from show to show, but the unique place of where that client wants that show is always different. So you need to do all that work with the client prior and then lodge your application and then receive your confirmation, and then you can do the show.
What's the lead up time for something like that?
We tell clients it has, we like to sign contracts 6 months prior, because then it gives us enough time to have a look at it, do the study, be like, yes, we can do this, no, we can't, because the client always wants because if we say it's, let's say it's $50,000 for this show, and then great, we want it in Sydney Harbour, and we're like, well, we're going to have to shut down Circular Quay, which means billion commercial operators, the ferry, it means opera, you're dealing with 20, 30 stakeholders to do that. And we can do that, but it's going to cost money and it's going to cost time to get approvals from every single one of them to then do the show.
Interesting. Have you had a look at other countries' regs and terms when it comes to setting up sky shows with drones like that?
Yeah.
And compared the difference where we're at in comparison to where other countries have their laws, etc., and the terms on launching drone sky show?
Yeah, absolutely. So where people in aerospace, CASA is looked at as almost gold standard in the world. Like, we are safe. Their laws are tight. They are, some would say, especially when it comes to certain areas, kind of overdone. The pendulum swung too far. They've overregulated. But as a result, when you say kind of they are the safest.
That's why none of the Red Bull extreme sport guys.
well, we did. We had the Red Bull planes here, and then one of them crashed, and I think, it was a whole thing. But you can do it.
Yeah,
you can pretty much do anything, but you've just got to put in one hell of a risk management plan, which is going to take time, money, and scoping studies. So other countries have varying levels. Absolutely, Australia is one of the top. So if you can launch the company here in Australia, it's basically stepped down from most other countries in the world. America's very much on par. We have pretty much the same. New Zealand's very similar but slightly different in quirky ways. But yeah, Australia's template is actually one of the best in terms of safety.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
Have you seen the 2018 Winter Olympic sky show? That was
in China?
Stunning. Yeah.
Yeah,
incredible.
Did I show you that?
No.
Okay, you didn't see that? Is that the one with the TV screen? No, that was the 2022 one.
No. Yeah, the 2018, that was on the snow.
Yeah.
And you had a stunning show. Like, I don't know how, I think it was over 1,200 drones that they put up there, and it was just incredible.
In 2018, that would have been a hell of a sight. But right now, so our manufacturer's in China. So we used to go to China to go see the new equipment, have a look at that. And they're putting on shows weekly, and multiple shows a week now. And their minimum, back in 2020 would have been, maybe 500 drones. It's like, okay, that's interesting. But I mean, they go big or go home. So right now, minimum is 2,000 drones. And it's just getting bigger. They did one in Vietnam, which was 11,000. And it's bigger, it's better. So the tech is just moving so quickly.
And the drones are getting smaller, probably
They're getting better in most metrics. They can handle more wind.
Faster.
They can do better colors. They can carry fireworks modules. They talk to each other better. They're more resilient to kind of spoofing. They're in every single metric. They're getting better.
A lot better for the environment in every sense.
Fireworks for drone shows.
In comparison to fireworks, yeah. I hate fireworks. I mean, we spend ridiculous amount of money in this country on fireworks every year. When you have a look at combined from New Year's Eve to Australia Day to every festive season, there's fireworks left and right, and you're not safe either. We've seen some accidents, and
we've seen some accidents with drones as well. It's an emerging technology. There's always going to be hiccups along the way.
You did have an incident that I read about briefly. Was that on the Swan River?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would have been nerve-wracking and stressful, I can just imagine. Right, when you're in the middle of a show.
There's nothing I can do. You're just sitting there and you're watching him.
Watching
and you just
few
see
drones fall out of the sky.
Another two down, another three down. And I remember, Christ, that was a story. I think the story that ran the next day in the rest of Australia was CEO of Drone Show cries as watching drones fall into the water. I was like, yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was because that was a communications error between the drones and home. And we'd flown that show, not that show, sorry. We'd flown on that location at that distance and before and we're comfortable with it. And we flew that exact, sorry, correction, we did. We flew that exact show in that exact same position and the exact same setup the night before on the Saturday night. On the Sunday, something was different with the communications. This is back when, again, like when you're still in the beginning of the kind of the tech And so we're using for our manufacturer version 2 drones. They're a version 4 point something now, only a few years later. So we're still working with this like now legacy tech back in 2022, and it went wrong. And the drones weren't going haywire. They were just getting further and further out of position. And so the propellers are open, so there was no prop guards on these drones. So what was happening is that they were good drones, just not going into the right position. Usually they're good to positioning down to 2 centimeters. These were drifting and drifting and drifting and drifting
Do you know
throughout
what
the show.
caused that?
No, we still, in terms of, we know that there was a disruption of the link. And when we took the file to the manufacturer, like here, because everything is recorded, here's the computer file of the show we ran, here is the logs for the drones, here's this. And they came back multiple times with kind of different things, which were like, oh, what about this, this, this? And we have everything, we give it to them. And ultimately for us, it was a good thing because, not a good thing that it happened, but they replaced all the drones. So they actually warranty, they were like, look, you did everything by the books. So we got all our drones back, thank God, because that would have been a massive, well, it was, expensive. But yeah, they were just getting further and further out of place. The props were hitting other drones, and then once the propeller was gone, they were just falling out.
Guys, how much every drone cost?
At that stage, the drones landed in country, calibrated, all the integrated into the fleet. They're about $3,000 each.
3,000 each. So having 1,000 drones,
Oh, you're just scratching. You're like, insurance, registration, like the
millions
costs
and millions of dollars.
They go up. That goes up.
Yeah. So what? How did you manage crisis like that after that incident? Moving forward.
Good question. So we were one of the first Western countries to have a failure of that magnitude in a drone show. So China had previous ones, and you didn't really hear about those, but they had. It was kind of funny for those ones because they were competing drone companies messing with the other company's drones, and so they had. It was a whole thing. It was like two cartels going for it over there, but so they had large scale failures in China. In Australia, we were the first to have a failure of 57 drones out of 500. So that's a 10% failure rate. So it was, and we're talking in Elizabeth Key, 40,000 people, mobile phones in the air, camera crews. You're not getting away from that. It was well documented from
every angle.
You it would be like the ultimate gaslight to try and turn that into no, it didn't happen. Don't worry about it. So it was funny. It's interesting now to look back on it. But then I turned my phone off as I went to bed that night. We dealt with it that night of just kind of obviously the first person with the call us was the client going what the F happened, and we're like, we don't know at this stage. We don't know. We did everything. We still don't know what has gone up. So we didn't want to say anything and then tell them, and then have to backtrack that later. So I was like, okay, we just need to take stock. So we packed away, put everything out that night. And then I woke up the next morning and I turned my phone on. And by 9 a.m., I had 156 calls calls and missed calls from reporters in WA, Eastern States, and as the time went on, it was making its way international. I had people from Europe call, wanting to get in contact, be like, "What happened?" Yes, it was like, but then at the same time, it went quick, it went real quick, and then I had the client being like, "We've got to do a press conference." I was like, "Okay, we've got to do a press conference," and I was putting it out. I'm still reaching out to people I trust and be like, "What should I do?" What is, managing crisis?
Yep.
What do you do? Mm-hmm. Do you shut down, give little information until you know exactly what has happened, and deny all the kind of presses? Or
you've got no idea at that stage.
Yeah,
we
haven't done an investigation yet. We still, and we there were CASAs hey, you need to do an investigation. Yeah, okay, of course. So we had we hadn't had that information, but this is the next day. So I was like, and then I had other people who were like, you need to get out in front of this and kind of control the narrative. You need to be there, because in the absence of your voice, they will start making things up.
Yep.
And then you can't, you know, they can make it up to
then
be 10 times worse.
Rein it in after that.
Yeah. So you need to get something kind of out there on file. And in the end, and I had other people who were saying, you know, can I swear on this? Like, you know, like shut the fuck up. Don't say a word. Just let it, you know, new cycle will take care of it. So I went kind of with a mix of both, where I batted away all the minor stuff. They're like, we want detail. I was like, no, shut the fuck up. I'm not going to give you the detail on that. But then with the major stuff, so we did the Prezi conference, and it was like, okay, here's, you know, I can say what I can say, decided on the lines of like, all right, when asked this is what we can say, this is what we can say, kind of keep it tight, but at least give them something so that they can roll with it and they're not making something up.
Until you really get to the bottom of it and find out exactly what happened.
And then 7 days later, nothing. Like the storm in the teacup. But for that 7 days, holy shit, man, that was everything in my life.
High stress.
Like I think my average heart rate was sitting around, you know, 110, but normally it's 57. It's like it was not a good week. But
that's why I don't watch my heart rate.
But dealing with it has been a moment of, okay, in the moment it was everything and it was all consuming and it sucked. But then once you've gone through that, you're like, okay, that's what the aftermath is. It wasn't that bad. It was bad, but, you know, we can deal with it. I can deal with it. Everyone can deal with it. And it becomes another one of those things of like, okay, I know what that looks like. I know what that is.
Yeah.
And
what did you develop to do better and to manage that better after that incident? You would have definitely developed some key processes in place.
Well, once it turned out that the manufacturer was like,
how do you manage with something like that right in the middle of it as it happens? So,
you mean
if you have drones falling out of the sky again?
We've been so technically we can do certain things in regulations where we can shrink in that exclusion zone.
Okay.
But over there, we're like, you know what? No, we're keeping the full exclusion zone. We don't want to get people closer, and that's just one thing. We shrunk every parameter that the manufacturer was saying to like 60%. If they said the maximum drone could be 500 meters away from where we take off, we ran that back to 300 meters.
You went over and above.
Oh, yeah. So, you bring that right back. And we're like, okay, these guys maybe don't know exactly what they're talking about. And so we're just going to wind it right back. So every parameter that, you know, height, length, everything would like 60%. And we operated in that sphere.
Yep.
And that's been great.
Yeah.
But SOPs for, you know, if they happen again, there's not a whole lot to. You've got certain things. You've got an e-fence. You've got the physical barriers. You've got, you know, the different types of communications on different frequencies on different levels for like primary and then backup communication links.
Was it the only incident that your company had, or you had?
No, I mean, look, we've had bird strikes. We've had corrupted files. We've had kind of everything. And most of them you pick up in testing.
So what would have a bird strike? Would that take out the entire?
No. It was with that.
Fleet or like?
I mean, we haven't had that, luckily. But birds are naturally curious of drones when they're like single and they don't like it. So like a single drone by itself, birds will, you know, go at it. When you've got like a couple of hundred, they give off, and it's actually really, really nice. When they take off, they all have the same, like the motors are all humming at the same, and they've got the same frequency and pitch.
Synchronicity.
And you just go this, and it's actually, and the birds don't like that. Once they got like, they look at one and they're like, yeah, okay, I'll take you. But when they look at 150 or more or 500 drones with that hum, they stay right the hell away. But this one was on takeoff and there was birds in the field close by and they went up and then half the pack went one way, a couple of the others kind of straight off, and it was just hit one. It just hit one. And the bird flew off, but that drone just came down, but then found its footing again and righted itself before it hit the ground.
Right.
Unfortunately, then in that situation, it's like, oh, I'm out of sync. I know where I need to go. And then it wants to go join back in the swarm in its position. By that stage, they've moved on. and it doesn't know where all the other drones are. So it just goes, I'm here now. I need to be here.
I'm going to go back up again.
I'm going to take the straightest thing and then hit another drone. So we end up losing 2 drones for that. We're like, but that was in testing. So part of the safety stuff is for every show, we always do a test for that show.
Right.
Prior. Full scale. So that was, that was
interesting to say the least. Yeah. How long does it go for, the show generally?
Now, when we first, and this comes down to batteries and a whole bunch of tech, like the shows we were getting between originally 15 minutes, and then as batteries degrade, we'll bring it back down to 12. And like, okay, as part of our bringing it back, the parameters, we say no more than 12 minutes. So the batteries go to 15 minutes, but that also varies within temperature. We had a show in like Dunedin in the south, and like we had that show for 12 minutes, and the battery levels, because they come home with redundancy levels, and we were like, even on that redundancy, it was like, it wasn't that bad. It was like 8 degrees, but lithium-ion batteries do not like the cold. And so they were, when they came home, we're like, oh my gosh, they had like 10% when they should have come home with like way more than that. But right now, like if you were enterprising and wanted to jump into the drone light show industry in Australia and you were buying like a brand new fleet, like 2025 from manufacturers, you should be getting between, manufacturers will say 20 to 25 minutes. I wouldn't fly those suckers from longer than 15 to, if you tell a client 15 to 17, then you'd be, 15 to 17 minutes.
Right. So to date, what was the biggest show you've done in Australia?
500 drones. 500. We've done a lot of 500 drones as our biggest show, and in Australia, because of regulations, like it costs a lot. Like it costs a lot of human power to put the drones out, because that's the type of drones that we have. So every drone has to be pulled out of a box, inspected 5 times, multiple different points on the drones, and placed down, batteries attached, and safety procedures. So
it's like inspecting aircraft.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But the newer ones, they fly out of a box. So you open up the box, you unstrap them, and then they fly out of the box and they land in the box, and then you close the box and you pack it away.
Inspecting 500 drones.
Oh, yeah.
Man, you'd have to have some manpower, otherwise it will take...
We roll up to the show 5
time.
hours before we press play. So to load out, to do everything, it's So there's a lot of prep work that goes into it. And we do that whole process on testing night, which is done like a week prior. So there's a lot of human power that goes into it. And then there's a lot of like creating the show is getting easier. Actually, now the softwares are catching up. But the biggest show we've done is 500 drones. I'll say the best show we've done was in Sydney, outside of Sydney Harbour, in Farm Cove for Racing New South Wales. And that was just multiple aspects of it was cool because it was for the barrier draw. And it was so tightly regulated that they wanted to give the barrier draw as a drone show. Now, this barrier draw, because it has to do with betting, is like clamped down, as in who knows. So they do the barrier draw, the stewards do the barrier draw, and then they only get to tell one person so that they can announce it at a certain time. And everyone knows this happened because it affects, apparently, I'm not a racing guy, but the barrier that a horse is allocated to, it changes the odds. So everyone's watching this and it's televised, and the clients hired this $8 million kind of yacht to have the people in Farm Cove to watch it, and the drone show is going to tell the barriers, the colours of the jockey, so the silks, and then the barrier. And so at one stage we had to, on top of doing all the normal drone show stuff to make sure it's all going, we had to code a show. I got given it at 12 midday, and then I had to sit physically with the coder because we had to not use phones, not email. I can't just email that shit out. And so we had to sit there with the coder and then code that show and then make sure it's good. So that one we couldn't do a full test because we only had we were there on site. So we did a sample test. We're like, okay, this is good. And then send the show. But for 5 hours, there was only 3 people in the world who knew that information. Well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But and it was televised, ran around the world. It was, and that was I think it was cool as well for us because that was like one of the first 5 shows that we did as a company in Australia.
All right.
so
While you're starting.
Yeah.
As well. Now, Elizabeth Keys, that would have been really, really interesting show. And what I want to ask you is, where did you put the drones if you have that safety barrier and that distance, like 300 meters? I mean, for people to see it from Elizabeth Keys, did you launch from the middle of the Swan River or?
No. So we launched, and this is where it gets complex. And like these shows were done in conjunction. The client was the city of Perth. So they were doing it on major event days. So for that, we had to shut down, if anyone's familiar with Perth, like Badia Drive, which is a main artery coming out of the city with a freeway on-ramps coming off it and heading down. So if you wanted to go west, you have to use Badia Drive. So that is shut down for like 6 hours. We've got traffic management there.
You
We've got a
launched
security
from
guard.
there?
We set up on the road.
Okay.
We launched from the road. We've transitioned out over to the water, and then we do the show in front of Elizabeth Quay, and then recover the drones on the road, pack them away, reopen them.
And off you go. Wow.
So it's major. Like, and the stakeholder meetings, man, like those team scores are like 30
not just
people.
had to shut the roads, you would have had to shut all the water traffic as well from
yeah.
boats, jet skis,
Yep.
everyone else that's cruising around.
You are in touch. We had
You would have
water
shut
vessels
down as
out
well
there.
the ferry from
One thing you don't do is you don't fuck with the PTA ferry. That sucker is going 15 minutes every time on the sucker. So
I know.
we had to go and like time it within.
No.
Oh yeah.
You had to do it in between.
Oh yeah, yeah.
you shut
Oh yeah, you had to do it because there were 12-minute shows and we're like, launch now, go this. But for us, we still have to do, and you go
Just
into regular.
there,
We have to do test flights, which
They're crazy
it's
about that,
too much
yeah?
wind. It's too windy. We can't do this. We can't do this now. We had test flight schedules. You're talking with the PTA. You're talking with main roads. You're
So they're
talking
happy
with
to
police.
shut the roads, but you won't shut the ferry ride for half an hour.
People of Perth, your ferry is sacred, and it is. I love it. Honestly, I
love it. I
it.
used to catch it every day almost because I lived south of the river for a while. And sometimes it's just easy, man. It's a nice ride, you know.
It's
almost
beautiful.
It was my daily meditation on the way to work. You know? So I'll catch you. But that's crazy that they wouldn't even just stop around or ferries.
Well, we because we're only 12-minute shows,
because that would have made it much easier for you, wouldn't it?
But I mean, you don't want to like, look, they were just like, oh, we really don't want to do this. Can you do this? And we're like, yeah, okay, we can. We'll do this.
So how did you stop other boats? And because that would have been your responsibility as well as a company to make sure that you've got that security, perimeter around the Swan River. What did you do? Do you have
Just a couple guys over the flag.
Really?
We contract a company to do like maritime security. So they are in a fast craft. They have 2 to 3 vessels on the water, and they put out their boys to mark the area in advance.
So you would have had to make sure you patrol that area, get all if there's any boats in there and whatever, get them all out.
Yep.
And then secure that perimeter. Right?
So those guys, they knew the timings. We had radios and nets with just the marine security, and this is all part of our process. Is where before you go on a show, you're talking to the AV people, being like, "Hey, we're going to count you in until you press play on the soundtrack." But before that, you're talking to the pedestrian security. Security left, security right. You good? Main roads, yep. Your traffic's good. Watercraft, yep, the area's secure, but we radioed them 15 minutes before to say like, hey, half an hour before. Clear the area, secure the area, lock it down from this time, get confirmation from back them, water's clear. It's like a full-on military op.
Man, insane.
Full-on military.
You haven't got any grey hairs, I'll say.
I got one. I got one. My wife keeps telling me.
Oh, yeah.
We call it Sophocles.
Plug it out.
Well, I can't, because if I take it out, 2 of those suckers are coming in there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll leave them.
So, Josh, you're out of the business now. You've had your fun. And
Look, I mean, I was the guy who started the business. And just because you start the business doesn't mean you're the best person to take it forward or to scale it or to make sure that it's operating as efficiently. So I've left the company as a CEO. The CTO has stepped up as CEO and is now running. I've been there for 4 years, so it's my time to move on.
You kicked a lot of goals, and you definitely
we
would have
did
learnt
some
a
cool
lot
things
through that journey. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a major. It's one of the pivotal moments of my life. Absolutely. But that was the second time I've gone from like inception to commercialization through to an idea. And it's hard work, man. It's hard work.
Yeah, I can imagine. So where is it for you now, Josh?
Well,
Are you still in sort of holiday mode or?
Holiday mode. Don't let the shirt fool you, mate. I'm pounding the pavement.
I know.
I'm just a colourful guy. I like it. I'm open to opportunities. But where I think I've narrowed down what I don't want. I don't want a pure startup again. From idea to commercialization. I wouldn't mind a scale up, and I think I'd like to work on a business that's funded, that is now got good product market fit, that's got good chops, that is now looking to scale. But I mean, also like previous to that, I had a construction company, and then now I've been in the startup space for 10 years.
Construction company.
It's a whole nother life. That was while I was at uni, and then.
You like all the easy stuff, don't you?
Fucking
It's like, oh yeah, there's a ton of compliance over there.
Have you ever watched like Grand Designs?
No.
Like the English version, it's a wicked show. It's always the same formula. Like these young people go and they build a house, and they're like, I'm building a 3-story mansion with like $200,000, and everyone's like, you idiot. And they always say the same thing at the end. If I'd known how much work it was going to be in the end, I never would have started. And that is like, I did that twice. Like, I know how much work it is now, and I probably wouldn't have done those things.
Okay.
But I'm thinking like, I wouldn't mind a job for a couple of years to get my brain space back.
Okay.
And just,
yeah,
maybe live a little
reset.
bit. Not be 24 hours a day. That'd be nice for a little bit.
Yeah. You're going to be in the tech space, or what sort of industry are you looking at the moment? Or who knows? From construction to drones, what's next?
Well, my passion prior to this was the art. So I was at Whopper doing. I did musical theatre for a year for the Certain Musical Theatre. Then I went into classical singing, and when I realised how much you get paid, I bailed. I went to UWA to do business
singing.
Law. Yeah,
you sing.
I did. I don't think I dance now, but as part of that, you did dancing classes. So you did jazz, tap, and ballet, and then I fell in love with like salsa and Latino music. Right soon after that. So, and then I went into like a rabbit hole. So I was a instructor for a Subiaco based dance school for a couple of years, just doing bachata, and I loved that space. And like that's what gives me energy. That's what gives me happiness. But I know that is a passion and fun.
Give you money in your bank account.
It's not gonna give you that. So keep knowing
hobby.
Knowing that something that you love is a hobby, and not trying to make it you monetize it.
Yeah,
is also a different skill, because I think it's quite contrary to everyone. They're like, oh, do what you love, you never work. But some things you got to realize, like,
come on. I mean,
there's reality.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
How can you scale a business like that?
It doesn't, like, most people will say, you've got to go 100%, and here's all the success stories of the people that went 100% into it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like that, man. Most people just do it. They scale out to a certain point, and then they got to make the hard decision whether they take it full time. But for every 100,
everything in life is going to be about commercialization, and
just keep it a hobby. Enjoy it for what it is.
Capitalism.
Don't destroy it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, excellent, Josh. Well, thanks for coming in and having a chat with me today, and no doubt we will do it again.
This has been great. I feel like we're just getting warmed up here.
Yeah. We are.